Well, hello, everybody. It's great to be with you one more time for the past days with Pastor Joel. Hey, just want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed yet, like and shared, you might consider doing that. Also, if you want to support me on Patreon, I've got some members who do. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to join in that, patreon.com/the past days with Pastor Joel. We're going to do something a little bit different today. I am going to review a recent debate. And some of you, if not many of you watching, will already have been aware of the debate. Maybe you have thought about watching it. Maybe you've watched some of it. Maybe you watched all of it. If you've watched all of it, just let me say congratulations, because it's quite a feat. This debate was 5 hours and 45. Let me do that again. 5 hours and 45 minutes long and some change. I mean, that they should call it a demarathon, debate and marathon. But it was a little bit crazy. I don't want to get too long-winded about it. The debate was supposedly on the Olivet Discourse, and if you've seen some of it or most of it or all of it, you'll know why I said supposedly. In fact, I could put debate in quotes like this because it got quite out of hand. It was on a channel, something for truth, but it just left my mind. It was there. This guy's got quite a few different debates on his channel. He does bring in a lot of different perspectives, and I respect that. Standing for Truth, I think, is what the channel is called. And it was a sort of a tag team event. So Don Preston and Mike Sullivan were taking the view that the Olivet Discourse was fulfilled in AD 70. Jeremiah Nortier and Sam Frost were saying that it wasn't. Full disclosure, I have history with all of these people. I've spoken at a couple conferences with Don, one with Mike, have engaged with them over the past several years, sometimes via phone calls, other messages. Of course, I've met them in person. I'm also in a Revelation podcast that Mike has been on every episode of. Don has started joining some of the more recent ones. I consider them friends. I happen to agree with them on most things, considering fulfillment and probably a lot of other biblical things as well. So just full disclosure there. Sam Frost, I've also done some phone calls with. Got to know him a little bit earlier on in my journey in fulfillment when he was sort of heading the other direction out of fulfillment. I have engaged with him social media, I think perhaps some emails as well. Jeremiah Nortier, whose channel is called The Apologetic Dog. I've engaged with a little bit less. He's the one that I know the least, but he also has different things on his channel. I've engaged in comments. We've had a couple of messages, etc. So 24-minute opening statements, which in my opinion is too long, but nevertheless, it started with Jeremiah Nortier. Again, I'm just giving my take. That's all it is. And I want to use this as a way to kind of making a point at the end that I keep seeing over and over as people try to debunk the fulfilled view. I just made literally, I have like 5 sentences of notes on this thing. I wrote Jeremiah Nortier opening, ellipsis, quotes, WHA question mark, other quotes. What? Like, I just be honest, I could not even really follow his opening statement. Asked some questions. It was a little esoteric. For me, I couldn't find, like, where did the plane take off? Where was it in the air? Where did it land? Did it land? Were we in the air? Was it a plane? I had trouble with this. Mike followed it up with a typical Mike, just chart after chart, comparing scripture, which I just love. He had a lot of information for sure, but it was, it was just so easy to follow. I think whether or not you agreed with his position, it was clear what he was presenting. Went to Sam. I actually thought, even though I don't agree with Sam, I thought his opening was basically a decent futurist type of opening, what you might expect somebody to say from that perspective. It was, I think, easy to follow, whether or not you agreed with it or not, and I appreciated that. Had a few things in there where it was a little tricky, but most of it was fairly coherent, I thought. And then back to Don. Don focused his talk on the marriage, which is one of his favorite things to talk about. Started with some Old Testament texts and then led into the Olivet Discourse. So from Mike and Don's openings, you knew basically what was being discussed. On the other side, their opponents, you knew a little bit from Sam's. Again, Jeremiah, what I had there. So after we got through the opening statements, the best thing, my favorite thing about the opening statements is that no one could interrupt each other because after this, I'm telling you, it got out of hand quick. No disrespect personally to the moderator. I'm really sorry because I cannot remember his name right at the moment. And again, I've seen him on some other things. I like what he brings to his channel and what he's trying to do. Seems like a very nice fellow. I didn't think moderated very well at all. In fact, and I want you to think about this for those of you that have watched debates on this topic, other topics, whether they've been online, as debates increasingly will continue to be because of the ease and convenience, or whether they're live. I want you to ask yourself this question: when a debate goes off the rails, how responsible is the moderator? Because I think the moderator is huge. Now, if you have participants in the debate that have decorum themselves, that are self-controlled, that are not impulsive, that can cooperate well with each other and be cordial, the moderator doesn't need to do much. We didn't have that in this case. We had, and I'm just being honest, not because I happen to agree with the other team, but both Jeremiah and Sam, their behavior was horrible. It made a junior high student look like they were mature. I mean, there were so many times when somebody would be talking and Sam would just literally, like, it was somebody else's turn, be opening books of commentaries, rudely doing this. Jeremiah would do this, and they're gesturing and just constant interruptions. And that's why the thing fell apart. And again, the moderator could have had a significant role. And I want to offer this. I am now in my new home, married and enjoying life. I was one of the reasons I was looking forward to all sorts of reasons, but I was looking forward to having better internet, because when I was in an apartment for a while, my internet was horrible. It's not great here. And so I've still got some glitchiness. I'm trying to get out more regular content, still got some problems, but I say all that to say this: if you want to see a debate and you want to see it moderated well, please, and some of you might even be friends of mine that want to have these debates. I want to offer to be a moderator. I think I could be a very good debate moderator. The rules would be clear. People would not go over time. People would stay on topic. And if there was the kind of horseplay that I saw in this thing, I would literally stop it and I would say, if you do not stop doing that, you are no longer allowed to be part of this debate, because it was ridiculous. And I think I could do a good job of that, because I can't stand it when debates go off the rails, because the purpose of a debate, in my view, is for the benefit of the audience. And when they go off the rails, the audience doesn't have a chance to hear one side, then hear another side. It becomes just some fiasco or some cheap entertainment. And it drove me nuts. And I put a lot of that on the moderator. And I've seen it happen in the debates I've seen go off the rails. A lot of times the moderator could have helped significantly. The moderator is not to be a spectator and to listen to the things and wonder about it. The moderator is there to moderate. And so I just want to offer that. And I have a platform where I could do that if my internet, that's the problem. It's not always consistent enough, but I just have thought about that quite a bit. And I think I could really help there to be some good substantive debates about eschatology or other things, because I will actually moderate, and I'm not going to put up with any nonsense. It's not fair to the audience. It's not fair to the people who have put their debates together. And I felt just so bad for Don and Mike, who I think realized fairly early on, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Mike even said that at one point later in the debate, because it was just ridiculous. The kind of things that took place in the debate, and in almost constant interruptions. It was clear that Sam, Jeremiah were trying to bring up gotcha questions when they did have questions. It was clear that they wanted to stay far away from the Olivet Discourse. At least it seemed like that, because they were talking about everything but the Olivet Discourse. And again, it's got so far off the rails for a while, to keep the analogy going, that even the best engineer would have had a hard time finding his way home. And so Really disappointing from that sense, especially in the cross-examination section. I mean, it was just really, really unfortunate. Q&A, same thing. And again, the moderator could have helped with this. You should have, somebody has a time limit to ask a question, then let me be blunt, then they shut up. The other person answers the question. The other person should get to answer the question the way they choose to answer it. And so often, when either Mike or Don would start answering, Sam or Jeremiah would interrupt, say, "You're not answering. You're not answering. You're not answering." And it just, again, are we in junior high? I taught junior high, and it sure seemed like it at times. And if you're in junior high, then that's the age you're supposed to act, I guess, but not when you're in your 30s or 50s or wherever they are. But again, it was just so frustrating because that's what should happen. Somebody asks a question, they get out of the way, the other person answers the question in the way they want to answer it, because there's always context involved, right? Not all biblical questions, especially in an area as large as eschatology, are like yes, no answers. You need to sometimes bring up a scripture. You need to bring up a context. You need to cite something in order to really give a cogent response that will help the audience. And every time Don and Mike tried to do that, almost every time there was just this interruption going on. And then the person should be able to give a short second or final word, and then we get on to the next question. Again, I do think a lot of this is the responsibility of the moderator. And I haven't got to the opening statements yet. I've had to watch a little bit, like a day at a time, because I can't stomach it all at once. 5 hours and 45 minutes. The debate could have been 2 hours and had as much or more substance, maybe even an hour and a half. And so we'll get to the closing statements. And again, is Don going to change his mind? Is Sam going to change his mind? Is Jeremiah going to change his mind? Is Mike going to change his mind? Probably not. Although if the debate, if everybody were adults, they could at least know what they were going to change their mind about. But that's why debates are for the audience. And we as the audience need to have an opportunity to hear one case presented, then to hear another case, and then to hear those things cross-examined. And there are lots of good examples of debates that are done that way. And so I wish that had been the case. It clearly wasn't. And I wanted to keep this fairly short. So I am going to wrap it up. I am going to get back to my God story lessons, and of course putting out some specific content on the end times. Also want to be interviewing some people myself and letting you know who some people are and the great work they're doing. Again, some of this is dependent on having more stable internet that I have. Lord willing, it looks like that might be coming in the next few months. The complex we're in has just taken a vote to get fiber and things in here so it can get better. But at any rate, I hope you had a very Merry Christmas. I hope you had a Happy New Year. This was my first Christmas in Australia. You know, when it's 90-some degrees and humid, it don't feel like Christmas. It didn't to me. But I did have a great time with family. Appreciate all of you. And I'll say Pastor Joel saying bye for now.